Hello, Contrarians, listeners, watchers, subscribers. Here we are with our first warm-up of October and our last warm-up, in a way, of the Contrarian year. So our years end in October. So we have this episode, and then the rest of the month is our 10th anniversary celebration. So there'll be a lot of fun stuff. But as far as episodes where we do Contrarians Corner, Real Talk for October, this is it, and it's a big one. We're going to have a guest on the show. Our friend Paul Prezula from the Countdown podcast joined us to talk about Saving Private Ryan, one of his favorite movies. Many people's favorite movie, apparently, according to its Rotten Tomatoes score and just its reputation all over the world.
I don't know if there was. I think it was a Mad TV skit that had a porn parody called "Shaving Ryan's Privates." I remember that from being a little kid.
As a little kid.
Yeah, I mean, Mad TV's extremely hit or miss, but I remember staying up and watching it in my bedroom, and I remember that skit they did where it was the porn version of Saving Private Ryan. Made me laugh when I was 10, 11, whatever it was.
Well, I have heard variations of the. I mean, all popular movies get their alternate porno titles. So,
Terms of Enrearment is the best one ever.
Is that from somewhere like Mad TV or?
I think it's actually from Friends. When isn't there an episode where they get unlimited access to the porn channel?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I think that's what I know it from. So
they're afraid of turning the TV off because they wonder if it's gonna be gone.
There's the porn parody of Das Boot in The Simpsons called Das Butt. That's a good one too.
As you can see, this is a very respectful episode. It is really, and there is a whole disclaimer at the beginning because we don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. We will make fun of Steven Spielberg. We will make fun of just pretentious filmmaking and maybe not so subtle attempts at manipulating emotion, but we will not necessarily make fun of World War II and the sacrifice that the troops made. That's not what we're about. And hopefully, if you've been listening for a while, you know that. But if you're somebody that just stumbled upon our show because you were doing Saving Private Ryan searches, then that might take you back.
Yeah.
So we did put a little disclaimer at the beginning of the show, and it's good. It was a great conversation with Paul. We talk about a lot of stuff, and that's partly why this warm-up is also going to be a little different. As usual, we have quotes, we have trivia, we have the Josh Gad Minute, but a lot of the trivia and a lot of the sentiments of the quotes are already in the episode, and we don't want to repeat ourselves. So I'm going to give you a little sample of quotes, but we're not really going to delve into them that much. And Alex has a little bit of trivia, but it's not as extensive as other warm-ups. And instead, what we're going to do is a very special segment titled Recasting Private Ryan, in which Alex and I are going to do something that is sorely missing from Spielberg's alleged masterpiece. And that is we're going to sprinkle up the cast with, in my case, some color. I'm going to just recast the main players in Saving Private Ryan with African-American actors. And Alex is going to gender flip them. He's going to recast the main players with women. Because if you've watched Saving Private Ryan, it's a white sausage fest. And yes. I think that we can have some fun by looking at alternatives.
But very little diversity.
Yes, yeah. So that's at the very end of this. First, let's get to the quotes. I'm just going to read them all together, Alex, and then we can just maybe share some sentiments about them. Let's start with Wendy Ide from Times UK, who says, the 24-minute sequence at the start of Steven Spielberg's Second World War drama is one of the greatest pieces of combat cinema yet made. Kent Garrison from Mad About Movies podcast says, Spielberg is at his absolute best here, with the true stroke of genius behind the camera work and editing. Ed Travis from Synapse, not simply a 1990s classic or among the better prestige films of my generation, Saving Private Ryan is a stone-cold masterpiece ranking among the very best war films of all time. Louis Menand from the New York Times, from the New York Review of Books. Why is he reviewing a movie? He's reviewing the Saving Private Ryan book adaptation. He says, no audience can resist it. You may walk out of the theater rich with indignation at the shamelessness of it all, but you cannot get rid of the lump in your throat.
Shamelessness.
Ann Hornday from Baltimore Sun says, by now we expect this level of performance and narrative competence from a Spielberg film, but what makes Saving Private Ryan a watershed is its emotional maturity. And finally, Todd Anthony from the South Florida Sun Sentinel says, its dramatic shortcomings may demote Private Ryan from the ranks of battlefield classics, but the film explodes romantic notions of World War II like an artillery shell bursting through the center of your ribcage.
Come on. I know where he was going with this. Jesus.
I mean, there's a lot of praise. If you go through the Rotten Tomatoes website, it's just a lot of stuff that is not, it's like, yes, we get it. You love the movie. A couple things that, maybe we can pick at here is that Anne Hornday says that the emotional maturity of Saving Private Ryan is what makes it kind of a big thing in Spielberg's career. He already made Schindler's List, which I think that's really the turning point when it comes to what you would consider, the mature stage of his career. So, yes, Saving Private Ryan is a mature movie, but that was not the first time he'd done that. I think that he successfully pulled it off with Schindler's List. And then there's somebody that called this the very best war film of all time. And Alex, something that we kind of established early on in the episode is that you're not much of a war movie guy. Neither am I, although I think you might be even less than I do. But do you have war movies in your head that you kind of consider big deals?
I mean, like, it would be just too Platoon, Apocalypse Now, like the really cliche day one answers.
The classics.
Yeah. I own Hacksaw Ridge. I would like to watch that. I need to get around to watching that. But yeah, it's not a genre I feel overly qualified to comment on.
How do you end up with Hacksaw Ridge not being a war movie person?
It was probably under $5 in a bin somewhere, and I was like, "Hey, this has Andrew Garfield, and I've been meaning to see it. Let's get it."
It's Peter Parker. Let's do it.
Well, it's Eduardo Sabrin, sir.
Yes. When you bought it, did you know that your favorite fraud is in it? Sam Worthington.
Sam Worthington's not a fraud. Eddie Redmayne's a fraud. Sam Worthington's just kind of a douchebag. No, I guess I didn't. I want to see Fury still also. I remember being really interested in that movie, more so about like the casting and I guess the quasi controversy surrounding its release than the actual subject matter. But
that's a rough movie.
Is it?
Yeah. There's a really, really uncomfortable sequence that goes on forever where our boy the Punisher and Shia LaBeouf are acting very, very aggressively against some French women. It's just, It's
Wait, Thomas Jane or Bernthal?
Bernthal.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Bernthal took over as a Punisher. Everybody else was deleted from history.
Well, I don't know about that. We got Dolph Lundgren out there still, but
there's recently 2-3 years ago there was a remake of All Quiet on the Western Front, which was nominated for. I think it was nominated for both.
Oh, I'm sorry, Glory. Glory's like my go-to war movie.
Yes, yeah. That's a good one too. But yeah, All Quiet on the Western Front, the remake, it got nominated for Best Foreign Movie or Best International Movie, and I think it also got a Best Picture nomination. Like it did the double dip. It might have, and it was on Netflix. It still probably is, and it was actually pretty good. And then also among recent offerings, 1917 from Sam Mendes. You might have seen the trailer because the gimmick is all one shot.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of gimmicks, the opening credits of X-Men Origins Wolverine is a pretty cool war movie when he fights in all the wars.
A war short. Just
the best part of that movie?
I don't know. I mean, there's also
the Leave is excellent in that movie.
But... Yeah, Liev Schreiber running like Sabretooth, like as if he was an actual cat.
and
then
Taylor Kish like trying to give Gambit a little personality, which the writing was not there.
No. CGI de-aged Patrick Stewart playing a younger Professor X. I think that's the cherry on top.
That's the post-credit scene, right?
One of them.
Oh, God. Yeah. Why did
Well, Saving Private Ryan is better than all those movies, according to the critics and to most
and according to common sense. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, those were the quotes. As you can see, they're kind of uniformly positive and just kind of the same type of praise, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
for those people who were not convinced by Schindler's List, it's kind of a lot of a, well, we didn't know Spielberg had it in him somehow.
We've talked about Jiminy Glick, right?
That's the Martin Short character, right?
Oh yeah, that's who should host the Oscars next year. By the way, is Jiminy Glick. There's one, like the gist of his show back in the day was he interviewed celebrities and was extremely like demeaning to them and whatnot.
Right. He was
He,
the precursor to what's the Galifianakis show?
Between Two Ferns.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one he does with Spielberg where he asks Spielberg, and this is like early 2000s. He asks him, he's like, when are you gonna make the big one? Like, the thing is, like, the actors and personalities he interviewed understood what they were getting into,
Yeah.
but they didn't, like, it wasn't a script, and so you'd have some actors do a really good job of like maintaining like a straight face and going along with it, and then others, like Spielberg, just starts like he can't help himself. Like, you can tell he's trying to like keep a straight face, and he kind of breaks and starts laughing, and he's like, the big one. And Jiminy goes, something that really clicks with the public.
That's awesome. All right. Well, that was quotes. Now, before we go to trivia, yes, we are recasting the whole movie in a little bit, but first we have to do what we
Well,
always
not the
do.
whole movie, the main players.
Right. Yeah. They are the movie. But first, let's find Josh Gad, who, yes, it's a white male, but he's also the spirit of this show, and he needs to be in every movie. So this is the Josh Gad Minute, where we take an actor or actress out and we put a Josh Gad in. Alex, do you have any ideas? Who is replaced by Josh Gad?
Currently working through having my mind blown. The hearing impaired paratrooper that says he knows Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
That was played by Ryan Hurst, who famously played Opie on Sons of Anarchy. And that is like blowing my mind right now. I'm learning this in real time because he doesn't have the big fucking beard and the long hair. That's crazy shit. But not him.
Not anymore, at least.
Gad could deliver the lines that Giamatti gets well, but then the problem is we take Paul Giamatti out of a movie, which I don't think there's any scenario where that's a good idea. So honestly, what we're left with is either Leland Orser, the character who kind of provides like momentary exposition or just like an update. The Leland Orser character in this is like the briefing you get when like the next level's loading in Call of Duty. And but honestly, I think Gad could take the Nathan Fillion role, I think, and be the original Private Ryan they come across.
The OG Ryan, the Canadian Ryan.
Or like in that, like that's how you give him lines. Otherwise, he's just like one of the seconds or one of the people that like in the meeting that's determining that we're gonna go save Private Ryan. So
Cranston. He can be Cranston.
He could be. Get him with one arm.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want him in fatigues, if you want him out there in uniform, I think he either takes the slot of Nathan Fillion or Leland Orser.
I like the Orser version of this swap because it really forces Gad to go dig deep into the. He's not Leland Orser can play that role the way he plays in this movie in his sleep because that's the Leland Orser persona. Like he's nervous and ticklish and whatever. So Josh Gad would have to make the decision of, do I try to imitate what Leland Orser did and try to play Leland Orser basically, or does he give the character a different spin? But the problem is that the Leland Orser thing is very effective with that character, like the pilot that survived the crash, but now it's scarred for life, And so I would like to see the Gad go up and take that challenge and see what he does. It's I guess a little bit of an Oscar speech.
Yeah.
Ends up saying FUBAR.
FUBAR.
Just initiating the FUBAR circle. So I think Leland Orser is out. Sorry. He still has Alien Resurrection. We won't take that away from him.
Got Very Bad Things, which also came out in 1988. So
yeah, he had a good year.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, that was the Josh Gad Minute. Alex, take us to some trivia.
Kind of limited here, but just touching, since what we're going to be discussing this evening is the cast and how we would change it. I figured we'd just briefly go over how we got there. Spielberg wanted older actors for his main cast, claiming that young soldiers would look older than their age under the stresses of war. Miller is the adult in the story, intended to project a calmness and feeling of safety that is undermined by the character's uncontrollable handshaking. I mean, like this, not like actual just, how you doing, how you doing, how you doing.
He can't help himself. Just introduce himself to the enemy.
Spielberg wanted Hanks to play Miller because he was the only actor he thought who could not, quote, want to use his teeth to pull a pin out of a hand grenade. Hanks formed Miller's character based on the history of the 2nd Ranger Battalion before Omaha Beach, saying he believed Miller was horribly afraid of getting more of his men killed. Mel Gibson and Harrison Ford were considered for the role. Miller's detachment is a diverse group, including a Jew and an Italian, reminiscent of the early World War II films. This was not a deliberate choice, although Spielberg believed he had subconsciously drawn unconventional World War II films. Burns described Ribon as a wise guy in the script, but the experience of filming the Omaha Beach landing inspired him to give the character a much harder edge. Sizemore was cast in The Thin Red Line when Spielberg offered him the alternative role as Horvath, Miller's friend and confidant. The actor had a history of drug addiction, and Spielberg mandated that he pass regular drug tests to keep his part, or the role would be recast and his scenes reshot.
He told me Josh Gad is right there playing the lead Anderson role, but I can upgrade
he's
him.
The understudy. Yeah. He's like following Tom Sizemore and moving like him. We talk. Trust me, there's a lot of Tom Sizemore discussion in the episode itself. Old Tommy Size. Describing his character, Sizemore said, "He's a quiet man. He was taciturn. He follows orders, and he loved the captain."
Like,
if he
like love?
Well, I don't know, man.
Did we miss some subtext in the?
If he had a tragic flaw, it was that he didn't know when he had enough, when it was time to say, "I can't do this anymore."
I don't know.
Tom
The movie
Sizemore had that flaw as well. Yeah. Vin Diesel was cast after Spielberg saw his self-starring directorial efforts Multifacial and Strays. The actor was working as a telemarketer at the time, having struggled to secure acting jobs. Goldberg's role did not exist in the script until his casting. Spielberg wanted a relatively unknown actor to portray Private Ryan. We talk about this in the episode. Spielberg visited the set of Good Will Hunting, and Robin Williams introduced him to Matt Damon. Spielberg cast him shortly after, believing that he possessed a great American every boy look, unaware that Good Will Hunting's success would significantly raise Damon's profile. He had something else. Was Rounders? Had Rounders come out yet?
I think
might be
so.
2001.
No, I think Rounders is late 90s. It might be 99.
Son of a bitch, it was 98 also.
Exploded all over. He had okay, this I know, and I don't know
and
if
it came out after this, which would explain why it made $25 million.
Courage Under Fire, the Denzel Washington, Meg Ryan. It's not quite a war movie, but it has to do with like the army. Denzel is investigating the death of Meg Ryan, and she has basically there's 3 different versions of the story. One is from what's the guy from La Bamba? Lou Diamond Phillips. Then another one is from somebody else, and then the other version, the third version, is the Matt Damon version. That's Damon before he was anything, and his character is supposed to have a drug problem, so he lost a lot of weight for it. If you look at the last scenes in that movie, he's like skinny. And I read somewhere a long time ago that it took him forever to get the weight back, to really get back to healthy. And he said that if you see the movies that he shot around that time, you can tell that he's still recovering. He's not his usual self when it comes to what he looks like. I don't know if that's something that you can tell in Private Ryan and in Saving Private Ryan, as far as like, man, Spielberg cast him in.
He also he had Chasing Amy in '97 too, along with Good Will Hunting.
Okay, he has like one scene in Chasing Amy.
But that's the distortion of the legacy of that movie. Was like, I think now people, I mean, it made a decent amount of money in its time, but like, I think now people act like they retroactively act like it was a bigger deal than it was at the time. But yes, Good Will Hunting, of course, that was all the rage. That was all the buzz. That was nominated for him and Affleck won, right?
Mm-hmm.
For screenplay. So everyone was fucking waiting for Matt Damon to show up in this thing, man.
Spielberg just shaking his head as he sees the box office report.
Give me Anthony LaPaglia. Neil Patrick Harris was considered for the role, and Ed Norton turned it down for American History X. Could argue that worked for him. He got an actor nomination for that.
Yeah.
Pete Postlethwaite, Tony Shalhoub, and Garth Brooks were considered for unspecified roles.
Garth Brooks, the country singer?
Mm-hmm. Chris Gaines, yeah. That's what it says right here. Tony Shalhoub, good actor. I just always...
Pain and Gain.
Well, I was going to say like Wings and Monk.
Monk.
Like, yeah. Pain and Gain's an example of him being a good actor, even though his character is really over the top. At Hank's suggestion, Spielberg had the principal cast take part in a 6-day boot camp, wanting them to experience cold, wet, and exhaustive conditions like those of World War II soldiers. Overseen by retired U.S. Marines, the actors remained in character while simulating attacks, performing 5-mile runs with full backpacks, weapons, training, military exercises, and push-ups after making mistakes on 3 hours of sleep per night in cold and rainy conditions. The men wanted to quit, but Hanks convinced them otherwise, saying they would regret not following through, and the experience would help them understand their characters and motivations. Vin Diesel said, "At that moment, we got this huge respect for him in real life. We were all exhausted. We all wanted to leave. And here was this guy who was a superstar who doesn't have to be here saying, voting to stay." Spielberg kept Damon out of the boot camp because he wanted the other actors to resent him and his character. That's a very famous story.
Yeah, and I've said it before in other episodes. I think that's a little bit of unnecessary trickery. These are adults. They're actors. This is what they do for a living. You don't need to psychologically also fuck with their heads. Like, if they're not supposed to like Matt Damon,
then you should just trust them to do their job.
Exactly. Like, yeah, you don't have to play mind games. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Damon didn't have a problem with that. It's like, sure, I'll skip the 6-day nightmare.
Saving Private Ryan, directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Robert Rodat, released on July 24th of 1998. An estimated budget of $70 million for a box office return of just a little bit under $500 million. Famously lost the Best Picture Academy Award to Shakespeare in Love. More on that in this episode and in our Shakespeare in Love episode.
You may not remember by now, but the Shakespeare in Love episode is not like the hate fest that anybody would expect. Like, there is obviously some animus, and you do read that article about the Weinsteins basically ruining awards by doing all the politics of it or whatever. But when it comes to talking about the movie, we have a lot of like nice things to say about it. It's not, it's not a better movie than Saving Private Ryan, and it was definitely not the best movie of that year.
Oh no,
but it's not a fine movie.
I imagine I expressed something similar to the sentiment of it's not the movie's fault.
Yeah.
It's what this fallout was. It's just like Shakespeare in Love is a better movie than Green Book, but Green Book is a good example of like, it's a dumb white savior movie, but it's not like incompetently made, awful, etc., etc. But the fact that it won Best Picture intensifies my views of like, fuck this movie.
Yeah. It just hurts, I guess, when you think that it was a bit, but Spielberg got director, so there was somebody knew what was happening. Anyway, that's all the standard stuff, unless you have any more trivia, Alex. You were saving like the last big reveal. All of Tom Hanks' dialogue was dubbed.
Hulk Hogan was originally supposed to play Miller, but couldn't get time off from WCW.
Brother, have you heard about boot camps?
What's going on with World War II, dude?
Did we win? What happened? All right. Now we move on to recasting Private Ryan. We saved him, and now we recast him and his buddies, the people that save him, I guess. Do they save him, Alex, or does he save them? Does he give them the purpose that they needed to get across the finish line? I guess that's a discussion for another time.
Insert waving American flag.
Yes. All right. How do you want to do this? Do we do like one block and then the other block, or are we going to alternate characters?
Yeah, one block and one block.
One block and one block?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Either way.
All right, let's go with I'll start. Let's go with the black cast. What if Saving Private Ryan was was Private Ryan was Saved by Brothers, uh, directed by Spike Lee, maybe. Ryan Coogler would direct it today. Obviously, like as far as history goes, we're not worrying about that. We're just talking about like what happens if you just made it. What are the? I don't know, Alex. Did you go with equivalents? What did you do when we agreed over this? We're texting, and you said, "Yeah, you can have the Denzel uh, list," because you somewhat correctly assumed that the first name that would come to mind would be Denzel. But you were
Well, the main thing was I was assuming you were going to cast contemporaneously, which Denzel would have been a fucking huge name at that point in time.
you assumed wrong
Okay.
because that makes it too complicated for me to try to figure out how old everybody was at the time, and trying to think of actors that were. You are a lot better at that. That like, oh, well, I know who was hot in the '90s, and so that's why I don't have Denzel as he should be Horvath. He should
Mm-hmm.
be Sizemore, but he's 70 today, and I just went with everybody as they are today. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so he's in the new Gladiator, the Gladiator sequel. Denzel is there, but I don't think he's doing a whole lot of gladiatoring. I think he's just sitting on the throne, just giving the thumbs up or thumbs down. But
Holy shit. I thought you were thinking of someone else. He is going to be 70 in December.
oh, I fact checked this. I looked up their birth dates.
Holy shit.
I mean,
didn't
he looks
realize
great for
of course.
70-year
Yeah,
old. He's still Denzel, but come on now.
that's insane.
I something I discovered is that all the African American actors I'm familiar with are in their 30s, with a couple that were in their 20s. So, I mean, I don't know how old Spielberg was saying that the young people would look older because they're going to war,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, it's the movies, so somebody in their 30s could be playing somebody in their 20s. You just
So you're just casting with actors of today.
yes,
Okay.
and most of them, I'll give you their ages. uh, Private Caparzo played in the movie by Vin Diesel, so it's like kind of like the smallest part.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it to maybe the smallest name here, even though he's in a great movie, two great movies that made bank, and he's been in the Contrarians before once. Shamik Moore, Alex. He's 29. Does that name sound familiar?
No.
Well, we
Wait,
only
was
had
it
him.
San Francisco? What was that movie called?
No,
Okay.
no. Good call, but no. We had his voice in Into the Spider-Verse. He plays Miles
Ah.
Morales in Into the Spider-Verse. So young guy, 29, but because he probably has the least amount of star power in this cast, he's the Vin Diesel that gets killed. I don't know, 30 minutes into the movie, but it's a great scene. It's very sad, and as he's dying, he's yelling to Private Mellish to come get that letter from him. Private Mellish, originally played by Adam Goldberg, he would be played by John Boyega here. Boyega's 32. What has he done since Star Wars wrapped up?
That's the point of Star Wars, brother. Once you're in there, you don't have to do shit afterwards.
Well, what I'm saying is he has the time to come do a Saving Private Ryan remake.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and he would get the chance to do the Mellish death scene. That's a huge thing.
What an honor.
Yeah. And of course you can't have the Mellish death scene without the other part of the unit, the guy that doesn't save him, that crumbles. Alex, Corporal Upham, originally played by Jeremy Davis, will be played by Lakeith Stanfield, who's 33. Lakeith Stanfield, we've had him on the Contrarians, Knives Out.
I was gonna say that name sounded familiar.
Yeah, he's a detective in Knives Out, not Blanc.
Oh, he's also DeMonte in good Uncut Gems.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
he is. Yeah. He has those, like, he can play that nervousness that he's not to the extent of Jeremy Davis, but I think that would be an interesting take on the character, and just to see him crumble, not being able to save our boy John Boyega, that would be cool. The medic, T4 medic, Wade, played by Giovanni Ribisi. I don't know that you're familiar with this guy. Trevante Rhodes. He's 34. Big deal when Moonlight, the year that Moonlight came out. He was one of because Moonlight tells the story in three parts, and first a little kid and a a teenager and then an adult. He plays the adult version of that character, and then he once he became a name, he was in the awful Predator movie written and directed by Shane Black. He's one of the main characters.
The Predator.
Is it The Predator or just Predator? Yeah, because Predator is the first one. So yeah, The Predator. A shame. I'm sure he's done more stuff since then, but he's cool. He's a tough guy, but you can see some softness within him, and I think that you need that to play the medic. And he tells a story about his mom when he's pretending to be asleep when his mom was trying to talk to him, and then of course his horrendous death scene when he's just screaming for her. It's brutal. I think he can pull it off. Moving up, somebody who doesn't get a death, the guy that escapes scot-free, Private Ryben, played by Edward Burns. Gotta give it to Michael B. Jordan, Alex. 37 now, a little older, but Michael B. Jordan can play the hottie, who's basically what Ryben is here. We make fun of him in the episode for being the stud over there, but he also can play cool, and he can be the source of conflict. I can see him starting shit, being a little bit insubordinate. Not insubordinate, Private Jackson, played by Barry Pepper from Battlefield Earth fame. It's the sniper. Gonna give it to Daniel.
Was that his cash-in on this? Was that like the next movie? Was that his Iron Man 2 for Mickey Rourke?
Oh man, I know that after Battlefield Earth, he did 25th Hour with the Spike Lee movie with Edward Norton and Philip Seymour Hoffman. I think that was his artsy exit.
Oh, even funnier. He had this Enema of the State. I'm Blink-182 kid. He had this Enemy of the State, The Green Mile, and then Battlefield Earth.
Oh, he's in The Green Mile. You're right. Yeah. Well, sometimes it's just not meant to be. He is replaced by Daniel Kaluuya, 35. Daniel Kaluuya, you know him from Black Panther. He's the one of the Royal Guard, the head of the Royal Guard, but not the women, because Danai Gurira is what are they called? Like they're the female Royal Guards in Black Panther. But then there's the
lead
guards.
From Get Out, is who you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah. He's also in Johnny English Reborn.
Good for him.
Again, you're just citing the wrong things, man. I know these people, but
I know I forgot that you watched Get Out. I was like, he's seen Black Panther. That's how he knows. All right, we're now at the top. Sergeant Horvath, yes, in a perfect world would be Denzel Washington. Washington for Sizemore, but he's too old now, so we're gonna have to go down to somebody that's 48. Sterling K. Brown. Where do you know Sterling K. Brown from, Alex? I think most of the world would say This Is Us, that TV show, but that's not.
I don't know what that is. Fuck, I can see it in my head.
He was
already a brother. That's what my introduction to him. He plays Paul Rudd's probation officer in that. And he's really funny because he talks to him like he's a fucking idiot. And he has one of my favorite SNL skits, probably the past decade, where he's meeting his fiance's family, and they are putting over Coco as the best animated movie they've ever seen, and he freaks out because he says Shrek is the greatest animated movie of all time. And he gets legitimately mad and starts throwing water at Have you seen that before?
No.
Oh, dude, it is so fucking funny. There's a part where he's like, Myers, Murphy, Lithgow, Diaz, a Rushmore of comedy, but let's all bend over for Coco. The thing is, the best part about it is that he's so good at it. The premise is so flimsy, but he starts out yeah. Well, Shrek's the best. And then just progressively gets more and more angry throughout it.
No!
Justin!
You're wrong. You're wrong and you're a stupid person.
But I know I've seen him in some other stuff too. He's a very, very charismatic, good-looking cat too. Very charismatic and very engaging presence on screen.
Yeah.
He's in Black Panther too, right?
Or yeah, Black he's Panther no, he's the Michael B. Jordan's father in Black Panther. We see him at the beginning on the flashback, and Yeah, he's not in the movie for long, but he shows up there. Last year he was in American Fiction. I think he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Mm-hmm.
He was really funny. He was really good, and he was also sadly in The Predator.
Oh,
I know, terrible movie. Not his fault. And then Alex, Captain Miller. Much like with Horvath, I wanted Denzel Washington. I was like, Captain Miller would be kind of like Tom Hanks was an out of the blue, like out of the left field casting. You know, can you imagine Will Smith as Captain Miller? We're past that though. We can't.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
56. We couldn't do it. I mean, if you had Smith as Miller and you had Washington as Horvath, that would be amazing. But we can't. So instead, I went with something that might be a little more traditional as far as reputation goes, but I like it. A little younger, not as young as I would have liked, maybe. But Mahershala Ali is 50, and I think that he could play Captain Miller, and he can play intense. He's gonna be fucking Blade, apparently. So he better be able to.
Well, we'll see about that.
And already has won an Oscar. Everybody knows him, you know. But
True.
you'd be like, can he? I think that he can play that turn of like, you know what? I'm actually a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Before I came to the war, I was just a regular guy. He could definitely pull off the Captain Miller role. And then finally, Alex, Private Ryan has to be younger than these people, which got harder for me because I was like, I don't know that many young black actors. And when I had Will Smith in my head, I was like, well, of course it would be Jaden Smith. Because redemption, Alex, after Earth, you just bring him. He's 26, and who knows? You know, he could surprise us. But no, that only works if you have Will Smith, I think, as Miller, so you can laugh at the connection. No, instead I went with Justice Smith, which has been in Contrarians briefly when we did Jurassic World Dominion. He shows up in one scene only because he'd been in the previous Jurassic World movie, just to connect them, to send them to wherever it is that Omar Sy is. He's the guy that gives them the intel. But I just spoke about a movie that he's the main character in a recent After Hours when I talked about the what was it? The American Society of Friendly Negroes, Good Negroes, Magical Negroes. The American Society of Magical Negroes. He's the main character there, and so I can see him carry a movie. I mean, I had problems with his performance, but I think he can do it. He can definitely be Private Ryan. He's quieter. He's smaller than all these men that we've been listing, and he can pull it off. I'm pretty sure he can pull it off. And that even like, you know, whoever ends up directing it, they can just do the same trick. Just put Justice Smith in his own bunker, let everybody else go through basic training, and then they'll hate him even more. And then just because I couldn't help myself, I already had brought them up, Alex. Denzel would be in the movie. He would play the Dennis Farina role. He showed up in the scene. Will Smith would play the Ted Danson role. And of course, because by now then I have to replace Jamadi as well. Jamadi would be played by Ice Cube.
Yeah.
Complaining about his ankles.
Why not?
It's the movies. We can do whatever we want.
It's true. You can flip and flop it any way you need to.
Perfect transition to your flip-flopping. Hit me with your female cast.
So I did completely different than you. Of like, when I say these people being casted, they're like, you know, and I can assign them different points in time of when they took on this role. So the Miller character is going to be recast with, let's say, mid 2000s. Toni Collette is going to take the role.
Holy shit.
Man, she's like my favorite actress. I think that's one of the things I've discovered throughout doing the show. So, if you know, Tom Hanks is some pretty big shoes to fill, but I'm confident she can do it. Meaning her right hand man or woman in this situation needs to be a bit more hardened and grizzled. So, T2 era Linda Hamilton have the Horvath role.
Nice.
And then we got to fill out our ragtag team that we put together here. So the rebellious soldier, Edward Burns, like mid 90s, I think, maybe late 90s, maybe contemporary for the movie, Vivica A. Fox. I have
Uh-huh.
casted as Ryben. In the role of Carpazzo, we have kind of went back and forth on this one a little bit, but I was thinking Aubrey Plaza would be good for this, just in the sense of like, because the Carpazzo character in this is warm, yet has like talks some shit and kind of goes off about some things here and there. So
Yeah.
probably like 2010 era, towards the end of Parks and Rec, we could throw her in there.
She's ready to make the jump to the big screen.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. The Mellish character, which sadly, it means it comes along with that death scene. But late 2000s Mila Kunis, I was going to put in that role. For Barry Pepper's replacement, we have Zoe Saldana, which I guess any of the Guardians of the Galaxy Avatar movies, take your pick.
Man, that is perfect. I can totally see her as this.
Oh yeah, the cross,
super professional. Yeah,
the sniper. Wade, given like the dramatic delivery that's needed, but also like the overwhelmed sense that comes along with that character. Judy Greer, again, like 2013, whatever time period Jeff Who Lives at Home came out. Let's say that Judy Greer. Upham, I was trying to think of someone who like I've seen that has really frustrated me with their characters before, because they're so good. Famously, I didn't like Zooey Deschanel for like several years after seeing 500 Days of Summer, because I was just like, fuck her, man, because I couldn't separate the two. But I'm not putting Zooey Deschanel in a war movie. I'm not that perverted. So give me like season 2 or 3 of Community era Jillian Jacobs as Upham. That's who I'm casting.
Wow.
Because you could see her like cower as because I'm thinking of Britta. You could see that character like cower away in that situation. And then to round out the Private Ryan portion of it, who we're looking for, what's causing all this? 1995 specifically, so Empire Records era Liv Tyler would be Private Ryan, because I'm thinking of exactly like the reveal of like, hey, I know that person. Like basically what you would have if you had watched this in 1998 and saw Matt Damon. Like, hey, Tuna, I know that person. And then I also threw a couple extra names in there to replace the Ted Dansons and Dennis Farinas of the world. I don't particularly have an order to put them in, but Long Kiss Goodnight era Gina Davis and Jackie Brown era Pam Grier would need to make an appearance at some point. So
I am shocked that one, Meryl Streep was not even part of the conversation.
Too obvious.
I had Denzel twice.
Catherine Deneuve maybe to replace Paul Giamatti.
Yeah. And also no Ronda Rousey.
Trying to take this at least somewhat seriously.
Oh, that was the
have Bjork replace Hal, Bryan Cranston. Not really.
Jaden Smith can be Nathan Fillion. He can be the first Ryan. Yeah, it just gets just that one moment.
Well,
he better be thankful for it.
After Earth did a lot to damage my perception of that kid, so
he is still making movies apparently, because when I was looking up his age, he was there was a trailer playing like on his IMDb page that seemed fairly recent. So
I did have Noomi Rapace up there too, and my original Ryan was going to be Rooney Mara. I was thinking about that.
Yeah,
with Noomi Rapace, she could maybe do the Carpazzo role, because like my initial trepidation was like, you're asking her to take on like an accent, but then I remember like in the drop, she's fine in that. So yeah, Aubrey Plaza and Noomi Rapace can duke it out to take the Vin Diesel role.
It's kind of a shame that Noomi Rapace wouldn't make it to Ryan though, because then she would just be pointing at Rooney Mara, just like you. Hey, it's you.
Sizemore also had Gina Gershon in contention, but I mean, Gina Gershon and War Fatigues, now we're getting into a different territory of a film.
All right. Well, before we cross any lines, maybe it's time to wrap this up. That's it for our warm up for Saving Private Ryan. There is, as we keep referencing, a full episode, Contrarians Corner and Real Talk, on the main feed. Paul is with us for that, and we talk about a lot of things. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of a gentle fun poke at the movie, and then a lot of just conversations about what works best for us, what maybe made us wonder what's going on here, and so on. So watch Saving Private Ryan for some reason if you haven't, or rewatch it. I know it can be a hard watch, but we did it, so trust us, it can be done. And then just hit us up. Tell us how do you feel about war movies? Do you have any favorites? Would you have recast differently? Because we certainly went places here. And then coming up next, as we said at the beginning, this is our anniversary month, which means that we're going to do the Embries next for the next episode. We're just going to give awards to all the movies that we've done over the past 12 months. And then we're going to close October with our 10th anniversary celebration, which is going to be just sort of a recap, a walk down memory lane of all 10 years of Contrarians. We're just going to go through the highlights, and we're going to put in clips from our friends, from our patrons. It's going to be a lot of fun. At the very least, if you've been with the show for a while. If you're a new listener, you might want to skip that one. Wait till you're more familiar with us. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.